Before we begin, hit that subscribe button if you think you can handle the dark side of true stories, because this one will make you lock your doors twice tonight. It was 2:47 a.m. when the call came into the Boulder Police Department. A mother's trembling voice echoed through the dispatcher's headset. "My daughter's gone. There's a note. Please, she's gone." Officers arrived at 755 15th Street, a quiet Colorado neighborhood blanketed by snow and silence. Inside, Christmas lights still glowed faintly. Gifts sat unopened, and on the staircase, a small doll lay face down, its porcelain cheek cracked. 6-year-old Emma Caldwell had vanished from her bedroom in the middle of the night. There were no signs of forced entry. The front door was locked from the inside. On her nightstand, officers found a glass of milk, a half-eaten cookie, and a ransom note written in jagged block letters demanding $118,000, down to the exact dollar. The note was oddly long, filled with strange phrases and misspellings, signed by Victory, SPDC. Detective Ryan Keller, a veteran of the department, arrived before dawn. He'd seen kidnappings before, but this one didn't make sense. A ransom note in a locked house? Someone inside had to know something, he muttered as he scanned the spotless crime scene. The girl's room was neat, too neat, except for one thing, the doll. It wasn't just cracked. Its left eye had been removed and replaced with a small pearl button, a detail too deliberate to ignore. As the investigation unfolded, tension brewed between the officers and the family. Emma's parents, Linda and Paul Caldwell, claimed they'd been asleep the entire night. They insisted the note was slid under the door while they slept. Yet neighbors told a different story. One said she heard shouting around midnight. Another swore she saw lights flicker in the basement. Forensics found fibers on Emma's bed that didn't match anyone in the house. But there were no footprints outside, no broken windows, and no security camera footage from nearby homes. It was as if Emma had simply vanished into thin air. By morning, the case went national. Reporters camped outside the family's home, speculating about the mysterious note, the missing girl, and the eerie doll. Public sympathy turned to suspicion within days. "Why?" they asked. Did the parents wait hours to call police? Detective Keller refused to join the rush to judgment. He studied the doll, convinced it was more than a child's toy. When he carefully lifted its tiny lace dress, he found faint red smudges, traces of something sticky. He sent it for lab testing. 3 days later, the results returned. It wasn't blood, it was wax. Candle wax. From a type of handmade candle only sold in one local shop downtown, owned by a quiet man named Victor Barnes, known for crafting custom orders for private clients. That's when the case took its first dark turn. Keller drove to the shop, but Barnes wasn't there. His store lights were off, his phone disconnected. In the alley behind the shop, someone had burned a pile of papers and cloth, the remnants of what looked like a child's nightgown. The doll had led them to a man who had already disappeared. And what Keller didn't yet know was that Emma's disappearance wasn't random. It was planned, rehearsed, and part of something much bigger than a single missing child. When Keller returned to the Caldwell home that night, he noticed something strange. A second doll, identical to first, was now sitting on Emma's bed. Only this time, both eyes were missing. The storm rolled in fast that night, covering Boulder in thick snow that swallowed sound and left the city eerily quiet. Detective Ryan Keller sat in his car outside the shuttered candle shop, the flickering streetlights reflecting in the frosted windshield. The store sign read Barnes Light Works, handcrafted candles since 1993. The irony wasn't lost on him. Light Works, and yet everything about this case was darkness. Keller pushed the door open. The shop smelled faintly of wax, smoke, and lavender. Shelves were lined with half-melted candles, each labeled with strange handwritten tags. Mercy, silence, forgive. Behind the counter, an unfinished candle rested beside a small jar of pearl buttons. One was missing, the same kind used in Emma's doll. In the back room, Keller found something worse. Photos, dozens of them. Children in playgrounds, families at picnics, shots of Emma Caldwell at her school recital, all taken from a distance. The handwriting on the labels matched the ransom note exactly. Keller's stomach dropped. Whoever had taken Emma had been watching her for months. He sent the photos for analysis and ordered a full manhunt for Victor Barnes, the shop owner. Barnes had a clean record, no known family, and no digital footprint. The only traceable clue was a rental van registered in his name, last seen on traffic cameras near the Caldwell home 2 nights before Emma vanished. When Keller reviewed the footage, something didn't add up. The timestamp was off. The van appeared on camera after the time Emma was reported missing, and behind the wheel wasn't Barnes. It was a woman, blonde, wearing a hood. The next morning, Keller returned to the Caldwell's house. Linda Caldwell looked exhausted, her hands trembling as she poured coffee. Paul sat silent, eyes fixed on the floor. Keller noticed the doll again on the nightstand. Someone had moved it since the night before. He leaned closer. There was something new under it. A note written in the same jagged handwriting. "Don't look for her. She's where she wanted to be." Linda gasped, backing away. "That wasn't here this morning," she cried. Keller ordered the room sealed, and forensics called in. The note's ink was still fresh. Whoever placed it there had been inside the house again, within the last few hours. Keller's mind raced. He ordered an immediate search of the neighborhood. Officers canvassed the area, checking basements, garages, even dumpsters. Then, just as daylight began to fade, a rookie officer shouted from behind a tool shed 3 houses down. Keller ran over, his flashlight slicing through the snow. There, half buried, was a burned candle, melted almost entirely away, and a small gold chain with the letter E. Keller's pulse spiked. He bagged the evidence, glancing at the faint trail of footprints leading toward the woods. By nightfall, the FBI had joined the case. They traced the rental van's GPS to a cabin deep in the Rockies, about 2 hours north. It was registered to Barnes, but Keller couldn't shake the image of the hooded woman behind the wheel. When they raided the cabin, it was empty, except for more candles, more photos, and a list. A handwritten list of girls' names. 10 in total. Emma's was number 9. The final name wasn't crossed out yet, and when Keller turned the page over, he froze. The last name wasn't Childs. It was Linda Caldwell. Snow blanketed the Rocky Mountains that morning, the white silence broken only by the crunch of boots and the low hum of radio chatter. Detective Keller stood in the middle of the cabin, staring at the list again, 10 names written in the same shaky hand. All girls, all from small towns across Colorado. Every name crossed out except one, Linda Caldwell. The cabin walls were lined with shelves, each stacked with glass jars filled with candle wax, or what looked like wax. Keller lifted one to the light, his stomach tightening. Embedded inside was something dark, something small. He called a forensics team over. Minutes later, the lab confirmed what he already feared. Inside each candle was a small human item, a bracelet, a hairpin, a button, personal pieces from each missing girl. Keller's hands trembled as he picked up the last jar. The wax inside was still soft, freshly poured. It was labeled Forgive. Outside, a call came through from dispatch. "Detective Keller, we got movement on Victor Barnes." They had found him, or so they thought. Barnes was discovered 2 states away, wandering aimlessly in a small motel parking lot, disoriented, dehydrated, and muttering about the woman who lights the candles. When questioned, he claimed he hadn't been to the shop in months. He said someone else had taken over after his wife died years ago. Her name, Evelyn, the blonde woman in the hood. Keller felt a cold rush of realization. Evelyn Barnes, Victor's late wife, was supposed to have died in a fire 10 years earlier. The death certificate was filed, the remains identified by dental records. But now it seemed clear the fire had been staged, and Evelyn Barnes was still alive. That night, the team set up surveillance around the Caldwell home. Keller couldn't shake the feeling that Evelyn wasn't done, that she'd come back for the last name on her list. Linda Caldwell. Hours passed. Midnight came and went. Then movement. A flicker in the backyard camera feed. A woman in a long gray coat stepped out of the woods, carrying a small bag. In one hand, she held a candle. In the other, a doll. Keller moved fast. He and his team surrounded the house. "FBI, drop it," he shouted, his flashlight cutting through the darkness. Evelyn turned slowly, her eyes blank but calm. "She asked for the light," she whispered, her voice trembling. All of them did. They wanted peace. "Where's Emma?" Keller demanded. Evelyn smiled faintly. "She's not gone. She's home." She nodded toward the Caldwell's house. The lights inside flickered once, then went out. Keller and 2 agents rushed in. The living room was empty, the smell of burning wax filling the air. Upstairs in Emma's room, the doll was gone from the nightstand. In its place, a single candle burned. Beneath it lay Emma's gold chain and a note. "Forgive." Hours later, search teams combed the woods. They found Evelyn's coat and the bag she'd been carrying, filled with old newspaper clippings of every missing girl, each headline marked with one word: mother. The investigation revealed the truth. Evelyn Barnes had lost her own daughter in a fire caused by a defective candle years earlier, one made by her own husband's company. Consumed by grief, she began saving girls she believed were in danger, recreating her daughter's room in each victim's home before taking them away. Her ritual with the candles was her way of preserving their innocence. But Emma Caldwell's body was never found. 2 months later, during renovations at the Caldwell's home, workers discovered a small hidden crawl space behind the wall of Emma's bedroom. Inside were melted candles, toys, and a single note in a child's handwriting. "Mom, the lady says she'll keep me safe until the lights come back." The case was closed, officially labeled as abduction and presumed death. But Detective Keller never stopped visiting the memorial in Boulder Park, where the missing girls' names were carved into stone. On quiet nights, when the wind blew through the pines, locals swore they could still smell wax burning. And sometimes one candle, always labeled "Forgive," flickered to life on its own. If you think this story was chilling, the narrator's tone deepens. You're not ready for what's coming next, hit subscribe, because the next case will make you question everything you thought you knew about trust, truth, and the human mind.